this is problem 5 of Neetcode 150, top k frequent elements. So we're given an array of integer and also a value k, and we have to find the most frequent elements. And you might ask, how many elements do we have to render? Well, it has to be the number of that value k that you're going to be given. So for example, here we have in this array the value 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3, and the value k is 2. So we have to render the two most frequent elements. In this case, it is the element 1 and the element 2. All right, so now that we conceptually understand the problem, we have to find a solution and a strategy. So basically, the first thing that we will want to do is to create a dictionary where the keys are the distinct entries and the values are the frequency of occurrence of each entries. So if we're given, for example, this array with the value 2, 1, 2, 100, and 1, here is the sorted array to make it a little bit more obvious visually. So we can see that we have 3, 1, we have 2, 2, and we have 100. Well, in our keys, we want to have the distinct values. So the distinct values are 1, 2, and 100, and the values of the keys are the frequency. So we can see that we have 3 times the ones occurring. So this is why you see here that the value of the key 1 is 3. You see that you have 2 times the key 2, so here it is 2, and finally you have 1 time 100, so the value of the key 100 is 1. After this, we want to create our buckets. We will use the bucket sort algorithm or technique, and we will create basically buckets, and we will use the value of the keys as their index. So it is as straightforward as saying the key 1 as a value 3. So the index of 1 is going to be 3, right? So in the index 3, we're going to put the value 1. And we're going to do the same thing for the key 2. It has a value of 2, so it's going to go on the index 2 here. All right, you got the concepts behind it. So let's start coding this. First, we want to create our dictionary. We can count, so we can count the occurrence of the keys. So let's call it counter, right? And now we also want to have our buckets. So how do we create our buckets? So we can do like this. So we want curly brackets for I in the range of the length of the nums, whatever that length is, plus 1. And why you want plus 1? Because see, here we have 6 elements in our array. So in the worst case, all 6 elements have the exact same key. And in this case, the value is going to be 6, so we want to put them in the bucket 6 here. Notice that this bucket with the index 0 is not very useful in this case because if a number is not in the array, we're just not going to count it at all. We won't even put it in our index 0. So the value of having 7 containers is to have the index 6, which will represent the maximum possible occurrence of a number in our array. All right, so this here will give us something like this. Notice we have our 6 buckets. And now we can continue. So we will want to iterate through our numbers. So for num in nums, and we want to create the dictionary. So counter, and the key here is the num. This is going to be equal to 1 plus counter that get num 0. Notice that 0 is the default value in the case where that current num is not in the dictionary. So it is a more convenient way to proceed than writing an if statement. All right. And also, the next step is to put these values inside the containers. So for num count in counter.items. All right, we're gonna say buckets buckets count dot append num. All right, so what we just created here is basically our dictionary, and then we went through all the values of this dictionary, and we used their value to put them in their respective index. So you can see that the 1 here is in the index 3, 2 is in the index 2, 1 is in the index 1. And with this, we are ready to jump to the last step to solve this problem. So first of all, we're going to create an output array. All right. And we want to go in decreasing order. So we will do this for I in the range of the length of the buckets, and -1 because if you remember, our buckets has an extra index to accommodate the case where all the numbers are the same in the array. And we want to go up to the index 0, and we write -1 to tell Python that we want to iterate in a decreasing order. All right, so after this, we're gonna go through all the numbers in that index. So for num in buckets I, we're just gonna append them, output with append num. And this is where we want to check if the length of the output, right? If the length of the output is equal to the length of target, this is where we stop the loop and renders our output. So if the length of output is equal to k, well, we return the output. All right, so this is the solution, the most practical one. All right. Great. So we solved the problem. This solution has a time complexity of O of n and a space complexity also of O of n. And that's it. That's the most efficient solution. And I hope you learn from this video, and I hope to see you in the next one.